Mr. Speaker, in this province, we've seen the ravages of depression and particularly postpartum depression. The NDP government's reactive answer is more and more drugs. Treating depression with psychological services like cognitive behavioral therapy is now as successful as drugs in the short run and proactively much more successful than drugs in the long run. Why are the NDP advocating the short-term fix of a drug a day instead of doing what Manitoba Liberals will do, and that is to provide additional funding needed so Manitobans can get access to psychological services when they need them?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is an important question, and the member will know we brought in the most progressive legislation to treat post-traumatic stress disorder under the Workers' Compensation Fund, and it's available to all working people of Manitoba to deal with mental health issues that arise out of serious incidents that they've experienced in the workplace. That is a very important policy initiative that we've taken in Manitoba, Mr. Speaker, and passed that legislation into law. And it is an example for countries all around the world that have working people that do risky jobs. Some of these people are frontline service deliverers, such as paramedics, firefighters, and police officers, but they're also social workers, people that work in the field of domestic violence, and even people that work in service industries where late at night they can be subject to, for example, a robbery and have trauma as a result of that. That post-traumatic stress disorder legislation leads the world, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud that we've done it in Manitoba. I'm proud we put it into law, and I know services are already being made available to the working people of Manitoba on that, Mr. Speaker. That's progress on mental health in Manitoba.
Mr. Speaker, it's one step forward, but there are many, many people who are still falling through the gaps. The Children's Advocate, for example, has said that there's a major shortfall in funding for psychological services in Manitoba, with the result that many children in care who have complex needs are not able to get the help they need. This NDP government is failing to meet the complex needs of children in care. Why has the Premier never done what Manitoba Liberals will do and pay attention to the needs of children by providing much better funding for psychological services in our province?
The best thing we can do for young children is to provide prevention programs that will help them deal with the stresses that they experience in their lives. And that's why we brought in programs to our schools such as Roots to Empathy, and an additional program called the Seeds of Empathy, where young people get to experience infants, the family experience of how to deal with an infant, to learn the skills of empathy and communication. We also have an additional program that's called PACS. It teaches young people how to deal with conflict without resorting to violence or abusive behavior. That program is in over 200 schools. We added 50 schools this year. That allows young people to be more resilient in challenging times when families are going through difficulties in the economy. Families are moving back to Manitoba in cases, and we're taking people from around the world. We need our schools to work with young people to provide them the skills they need to navigate the complexities of life, and that's what we're doing, Mr. Speaker, and we're leading the country in those kinds of initiatives in our public schools.
But forgetting about the children with complex needs who need psychological services. Mr. Speaker, there is a long waiting list for children who need a psychological assessment to obtain the appropriate support while they're still young and in school. Yet in 16 years, the current NDP government has underfunded psychological services so that children in need in Manitoba have to wait and wait and wait, and some even eventually age out of any chance for childhood supports.
Exactly.
Why has the NDP government in 16 years failed to do what a Manitoba Liberal government will do in order to give children a better future for our province?
Mr. Speaker, the member should vote for the budget today if he's concerned about mental health services. We brought in a complete mental health strategy in this budget. We've added additional $2 million to that strategy to build on work that we've already done. We work in communities on suicide prevention issues. We've worked with our social service agencies to provide mental health services. Young people in Manitoba have taken a real lead on this. Our anti-bullying legislation isn't there to protect people from abusive behavior and being labeled and degraded for who they are. We support people in their identity, search for their identity to be who they really are. That's why we brought the anti-bullying legislation. The mental health strategy that we put in place in this province supports that. We work with young people. I was at an event at the Forks just a few weeks ago, Mr. Speaker, where young people from schools all around Winnipeg and indeed Manitoba were forming peer groups to support each other in the schools, to find ways to be supportive to people that feel isolated and left out and give them a sense of inclusion. I'm proud we supported that legislation. I only wish the opposition would have supported it. They chose not to. They believe in excluding people in our society. We believe in including them and treating them with respect and dignity, Mr. Speaker.